Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about interviewing real estate agents when selling your house. Who do you interview? What questions do you ask? How many people should you interview? That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Jeb Smith, Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage here in Huntington Beach. And the reason this topic comes up is because hiring the right real estate agent is probably the most important piece of the selling process. Having the right person there to help guide you through that process is going to make all the difference. It's going to be the difference in selling for top dollar in the shortest amount of time versus your house sitting on the market, having bad communication, and just really not know what's going on during the process. So that's why we're touching on it. So I'm going to start with how many agents should you interview. I would tell you that you should always interview at least 2 agents just to have some form of comparison. And the reason I say that is because all agents are not equal. They're not equal in communication. They're not equal in their marketing efforts. They're not equal in what they offer in a lot of different areas. And so by interviewing multiple agents, you have an idea of what one person offers versus another. You have an idea of what kind of marketing one person is doing versus another. One person might say, hey, look, we're going to put a sign in your yard and put your house on the MLS, and you might think, wow, that's great. All these people are going to see it. And then the next person might come in and say, hey, look, we're going to put a sign in the yard, put your house on the MLS. We're going to put it in print. We're going to put it on social media. We're going to put it in TV ads, all of these additional things. And then what you thought initially was great no longer seems that great because now you have something to compare it to. And so interviewing at least 2 people will give you some form of comparison in all of those different areas and give you more confidence when making that decision. So I would say at least 2, probably no more than 3 or 4, because at some point it gets somewhat redundant in what people are offering, and it's hard to really keep track of all the different nuances in what people are offering. So I would say stick with, a couple of good agents. Where you find those good agents is up to you, but I would always say start with a referral. Number 1, right? If you can get a referral from somebody that you trust, that's always the best source for someone to interview. And then secondly, maybe somebody that's selling houses in the neighborhood that you're aware of. Maybe there's a local expert. Maybe you do a search online, find somebody with really good reviews, that has a lot of reviews and something to base it on, right? And so you've got a couple different avenues of people to compare. And next, what questions do you ask? In my experience, most sellers want to know 3 things. What's my home worth? And that agent should be able to provide comparables and tell you how they come up with that value. Secondly, what am I going to do to help you sell your house? What am I going to, what kind of marketing am I offering? What am I going to spend to help you get more money for your house, right? You're paying me a commission. What am I doing to help you achieve your goal? So that should be number 2. 3, how long is it going to take to sell your house, right? I mean, that agent can't give you an exact number, but they should be able to give you an idea. If they're a knowledgeable agent, if they understand the market, if they understand the historical trends in the market, etc., the different seasons in the market, they should be able to give you a good idea of how long it's going to take your property to sell. And they should also be able to kind of provide you data based on those comparables saying, hey, look, in your neighborhood, the average days on market is 45 days. All of these houses were priced at fair market value. So on average, you're probably sitting somewhere around 45 days. Just having that conversation, you want to make sure that you're able to, that the person you're talking to is able to convey back up what they're saying with actual data, and not just talking out loud. And because there's a lot of good people that are good salesmen, but when it comes down to actually showing how they got the information or where it came from, they can't provide it. So those are probably the 3 most common questions I get, but I would go deeper, right? I mean, I would say, hey, are you a full-time real estate agent? Are you a full-time professional agent? A lot of these agents moonlight as real estate agents during the day, but they have different jobs. So are you a full-time agent? How long have you been in the job? How long have you been a real estate agent? How much experience do you have? When did you get licensed? Those are questions to ask. Another one that I love that I always, I try to provide, if somebody seems uneasy about the process or what have you, is, ask for the last 3 properties that they've sold, and ask them to provide the the seller's contact information so that you as a seller can reach out to them and ask the questions that you have to that person directly, the person that they worked with. And there's a way to find out the properties that they've sold, right? I mean, there's data online that provides that so that they can't BS you or beat around the bush and not actually provide you the last three, because, provide the most recent. That gives you really good comparison. Another question, how many properties have you sold? How much volume did you do last year? If they're an agent selling one property, two properties a year, I don't know if that's the real estate agent you want. You want somebody that's actually doing business out there because they understand the market. They understand the trends. They know what's going on with buyers, with sellers, they know how to negotiate. The more often someone closes a real estate transaction or goes into escrow, that means the more often they're negotiating, the more experience they have. That's what you want as a real estate agent representing you, or that's what you should want. In addition, how many houses have you sold in my area? Are you familiar with my neighborhood? And then as a seller, ask questions about your neighborhood that you know that only somebody in the area that knew that neighborhood would know. What are the schools? What's the park name down the street? Whatever it is, just to make sure that you're dealing with somebody who understands the not only the marketing aspect, but also the buyer demographic in the neighborhood, the trends going on, all of that good stuff, because that's what makes up a real estate agent, somebody that's done their research prior to going into that interview. And so they're expecting those questions. They know those questions. Or maybe you don't even have to ask them. Maybe that real estate agent is bringing that stuff to you directly. A good real estate agent will ask really good questions of you as the seller. They won't just sit there and take questions from you. They're also going to want to know, hey, what's important to you in the process? That's something I ask sellers. What's important to you? When you last bought or sold a house, what was great about the process? What wasn't great about the process? What could have been done better? Because that helps me as a real estate agent know how to provide value to you as a seller. So you want a real estate agent that knows how to ask the right questions so that they can provide, you as a seller, that support and that guidance through the process. And then, another question to ask, and I listed more below in the actual dialogue listed below the video, but another one to ask is how do you plan on communicating with me? Like, how often should I expect updates? If I'm contacting you, am I speaking to you to ask questions, or is there somebody else I'm talking to? Like, who am I talking to? Because a lot of real estate teams out there, big teams, will go into the interview, do the interview, and then you never see that person again. You never hear from that person again. When you have questions, problems, you're talking to somebody else. You're not actually talking to that agent. So make sure that you know who you're hiring and that you have access to that person, because that's important in the process. You don't want to hire, say, the number one agent and then never be dealing with the number one agent. You're dealing with somebody that works for that agent, maybe a new agent that's just learning the business. So all of that is important in the process, and that will help you in hiring the right real estate agent. Interviewing, again, is all about asking the right questions from both sides, from the real estate agent asking the seller the right questions, from the seller asking the real estate agent the right questions. When, and by interviewing more than one person, it will give you guidance between those two people. If you ask similar questions to both of them, compare the answers, you'll get a really good idea of who it is that you want to work with. And then lastly, make sure that whoever you're hiring, understand the cancellation policy, right? Understand if you want to back out of the transaction for any reason, maybe you decide not to sell, maybe you decide that's not the real estate agent, how are you getting out of that process, right? Make sure it's clear, it's laid out so that you understand that going into it, so there's no confusion in the long run. So I hope that is helpful. If you have additional questions about the interview process, of buying a house, selling a house, what have you, comment below. Be happy to address those questions. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.